take like 10 seconds. And I'll give the thumbs up or check.
Okay, we've reached 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, which means it's time for me, Farzana of SF Digital, to go live. So sorry I had a little break last week. Technology was not on our side last Friday, and same for a couple of other days. So here I am presenting today. So the topic I've chosen today is how to run a business with your spouse. And I'll come to why that is, why I've chosen this topic in a moment. But before, I'd just like to make an announcement, really, to say that for those of you that may have not have realised, we have launched this week our Google Ads Like a Boss training and coaching program, which is really, really exciting. It's been in the making for quite a while. If anything, this year has made it really important to try and support our community through a proper coaching and training program. And you can come into this program, you will get all the bundle of training online, but we have twice a week, in fact it's twice a week but 4 sessions in a week, where you can join the coaching class and ask whichever questions you want. It's a safe space where we can pretty much go through anything. Some of it is very Google Ads related, because indeed that's what the coaching program is, but it's actually a great place to just iron out any other problems you might be having in your business, any issues you might be having, because within that group somebody's bound to have the solution, and of course we will be leading that. So do look that up. The website is on the bottom there, sfdigital.co/GADSLAB for abbreviations, which stands for Google Ads Like a Boss, and you can find out more on the page there, so do look that up. So back to today's session. Why did I choose this topic? Well, for those that have known us for a while now, you'll know that we've been running this business for 18 years, and Zara and I have worked together pretty much since month 3, formally as Zara joining the business that I actually originally started. But before that, we have ended up working together when we had print business. Before that, even when we were just still at college and just coming out of college, there were a couple of jobs where we ended up working together, and somehow or other we've ended up working together for whatever the reason, and especially in this business. And it's a topic and a question that often comes up. Oh, must be really hard to work with your partner, or oh, what's that like working with your partner? And let's just say it's interesting. So I thought I would share my thoughts as to how to make that relationship, working relationship, when you are actually married as well, work in the workplace. So here goes, and let's see, hopefully you'll enjoy the topic. Now, this could have been the shortest presentation ever, of course, because how to make it work is basically, if you're the husband, just listen to the wife and you won't go wrong, and that's it, job done, your work is done and you can go home. So I thought, yes, you might want something more than just about a minute of me saying that. The other problem is, of course, if the patio slabs have moved, just check out that the spouse isn't being tucked away underneath there. So I always joke with the family, if anything moves in my garden, you might just want to check that no family members are missing. So how did you get into this situation in the first place of working together? So for many, it can be something where you end up saying to your partner, oh, I'm really struggling with XYZ. It might not be your own personal skill set. Can you give me a hand? And what starts off as being a bit of a hand ends up being more and more hours of support in the background sometimes. Sometimes it's not even formally recognised as being officially in the business, but boy, are they in the business. Without them, you probably couldn't actually run the business. Now, if I go back to day 1 when I started the business, it was supposed to be me taking photos with 2 very young children in tow. One was only a 3-month-old baby at the time. How I thought I was going to do that, I don't know. I did do it, but there are lots of things I couldn't do without Zare's help. For example, he was the actual true expert on the photography. That was his passion and his hobby. I always joke with him, I can't help it if I'm good at things and I can manage to make money out of them. But at that early start, without his background and support, we wouldn't be in the business that we are in today. And even as our journey has continued, we are both very, very different individuals. Zaire is very good, mercurial minded, at looking at the bigger picture, the next emerging opportunity, and finding that big space to actually expand and find an opportunity. I'm probably more of the micro detail person, because I will want to know how that's going to happen, and I'm the one that tends to probably ask those awkward questions and difficult questions. Well, it's all very well you're thinking that, but how are we going to make that happen? Are we actually going to divert our attention and do that or not do that? And so in a way it's a great balance, because it means we can fly but keep ourselves grounded at the same time, keep a reality check on what's going on. Also, as I've just touched on, you may have different skill sets. So Zaire, like I've just said, Zaire and I are both quite different in how we do things. Even on a day-to-day basis, we manage things in very different ways. But the end result is to grow the business and make sure it's running. It could be a case of keeping up with demand. You might have that suddenly, if you're selling loads and you need to increase your hours or stock control, stock production, you might just need those extra pair of hands to give you literally, excuse the pun, a hand in the business. And it also often is a way of keeping down the overheads, because especially as you're trying to establish your business, paying somebody a salary, which you may need to do to help you grow your business, may not be realistic. And especially in the current environment that we're all going through, even if you want to pay someone and have some additional help, it's quite difficult to do. There are some things at the moment with COVID you just cannot do. I personally, I must say, I cannot wait until I can have people back in the home, back in the workplace, and actually get some physical support with some of the things that I need to get done. At the moment, I'm just going to have to somehow get them done. So it's a challenge. It certainly is a challenge at the moment. So, what's the result of all of this? I had a little think about this, and my stars has disappeared. Right, well, I'll just have to remember what I had on there. Basically, the result often can be a little bit of negativity and almost a begrudging way of getting things done, because hello, no, there's a previous slide, that's okay. Lost my thread there, sorry, I just had tech support throwing in a hand. So where was I? The result of all of this. Okay, so what will end up happening sometimes is that because things just happen slightly organically and you're just almost muddling along and throwing things at each other, you do this, you do that, there isn't really a clear definition of where you're actually trying to get your jobs defined within the business. And also, if it's sort of an unofficial help in the business, there isn't really that acknowledgement, and dare I say it, sometimes just a thank you, that I do appreciate what you've done. And it might be a big thing, it might be a small thing, but it's important to recognise the contribution that person has made. So what can end up happening is you sort of, instead of pushing and growing your business and making that happen, it feels like you're pulling a huge burden, and instead the joy of running that business starts to get sucked out of your day-to-day running. So what can you do to stay effective and focused within your business? One of the things that we did very, very early on in our working career together was to define our roles. And I can give you a couple of examples of this. So for example, when we first started doing dinner dance work photography wise, we would be at an event, time is of the essence. You have got a set window when people are sitting down to dinner before their meal starts to come out. I'm talking a big room of potentially 400, 500 people. You've got to be really effective about the tables you're going to target, who looks like your correct audience, your correct demographic that are actually going to buy these photos. There's no way you can cover the whole room. So you've got to be sensible about what you're doing, and you've got to get started the minute they sit down. And Azar and I would spend probably a good 15-20 minutes arguing about who is going to go and start approaching those tables to start taking those photos. Of course, it was always me that ended up going to take those photos, because the reality was it was much easier for a woman to approach a table and ask them to have photos done than it is for a man. So it would always be me that got the short straw. But it wasn't something I naturally felt that I wanted to buzz up and do. Again, remembering your own personality types and character types. People normally find it hard to believe, but I am a natural introvert. So walking up to a group of people, certainly 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago now, was not something I would naturally want to do. It's a little bit different now. I'm normally throw me in anywhere and it's not a problem. So it was, on a practical sense in our business, it was important also to define our roles, because otherwise you fall into the category of, oh, I thought you were doing it. No, I thought you were doing it. And then you end up having an argument about it. One other key area, and this is true for every single business, whether you are working with your partner or not, even if as a sole owner, that is the money. So keeping all the invoicing up to date, keeping all, in our case in the UK, our VAT tax returns, our monthly and quarterly returns up to date is, well, it's a legal requirement more than anything. But normally when businesses start, most people are probably not thinking about their numbers. They just start the business and then end up with bags full of receipts and paperwork that they mean to get round to doing, and it ends up becoming a big mess. And this was, again, something that from the early days, not because I can't do it, it was something that was there, just would sit through the desk. He would just raise all the invoices, especially when we used to have lots of horse photos being done. Monday morning we would have umpteen small little receipts, invoices that all had to be issued to accompany the order. So they had to be quite sensible and methodical. You couldn't really miss any. And so he would just zap through them. Now we use online bookkeeping. At any moment in time, I can go in and I can check what's happening with the finances, and I can see what's going on. I can track sales. I can do whatever I need to do. But the nitty gritty, I've got to say, Uzair still looks after all of that, and he handles all the bookkeeping and makes sure everything is up to date. So just two very simple examples of why it's really important to keep a track of the roles within your organisation. The second one I put down is respecting each other's diary entries. So until about probably 10 years ago, we would literally have just a normal diary, a physical diary, and that went onto an online diary, but we didn't have a synced diary, which we now do and have had for many, many years. If you saw our diary, I haven't got a window open right now, most people are shocked when we end up with a screen share at the moment as to just how much is going on in that diary. But what would normally happen in the old days was, guess who'd be the one that would have to move their commitment? It would always be me that had to move something I've already put into the diary, because Azair hasn't checked the diary, and so then it's me trying to work out the logistics of how that impacts everything else. And then we made it really clear, well, if it's in the diary, first gets the slot. Everything else will have to fit around it. And that has, again, been a joy since we went to synced diaries, because we no longer have to have clashes and arguments as to who needs to move what, because it's bad enough putting a diary entry in once. Having to reschedule something can be a real hassle for people, and it's really hard to get opportunities and windows in people's diaries. So this has been a great relationship saver, shall I say, for making sure that everything runs smoothly. Because the reality is, especially for us too, and anyone else working like us as a husband and wife team, there's only one of you. Now, whether I'm doing home duties, children duties, business duties, work appointments, there's only one of me. I can only be in one place at any one time. And if I'm required somewhere, I can't then be somewhere else. So it makes sense that if your diaries are synced, you've got complete visibility of where anyone is, your other half is at any one moment in time. As I mentioned at the start, now we've got these coaching calls that have gone into the diary. So they all have to be factored in, because it means Azair has a particularly early start 2 days of the week. I've got to make sure that everything's lined up and that I know he's going to be out of the office. To be honest, in our case, the way we're working at the moment, he's pretty much out of home anyway, doing some very long hours at the moment. Hopefully that will come to an end. Now, again, agreeing your boundaries for your healthy work-life balance. Now, a couple of days ago, I actually took some time out, just an hour, to do an actual class, an online exercise class. I've touched on this before, how for me physical exercise is something I tend to neglect in myself, and I've come to realize, especially through the last 8-9 months now of lockdown, that I can't really ignore that anymore, because being stuck at home as much as we are is an important part of staying healthy. And so unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, the only option was to do this class in the middle of the day, which for most people is, of course, working time. But actually, doing that class for me is also work, because without that, I can't actually work in my business and be healthy and motivated and energized to deliver my best. So that went into the diary, and Azir didn't even question me, why are you doing that class in the middle of the day? Because he knows I need to do it, and it's gone into the diary. My work will still get done. So it's important to respect each other's boundaries, and whatever gives that person their relaxation time, recharge, downtime, it's important to do that. And this is just a little observation from me. Just running a business together, it does not mean it leads to some kind of martyrdom and that it's going to get engraved on your headstone, the great burden that you carried of running this business together. It doesn't need to be that way. The reality is you're on the same side, you're on the same team, and that for me actually is probably one of the nicest things of not having to work in a big busy office space, shared offices, and working as part of an organisation just as an employee, because you never quite know when the knives are out, you never quite know what the office politics is, you never quite know whether you're going to be stitched up and somebody's going to take credit for your work, or all those other things that go on as an employee. I can't even imagine myself being in that environment. It's not how I functioned when I did work in my younger days in places. I was always the last to know the office politics because I was actually too busy doing my job. And I dare I say I was good at what I did. So I didn't need to worry about the competition and feeling threatened. I just got on with what I needed to do. But that is, like I say, joy of working with your other half. Actually, it's not such a lonely place because you're both in it together. Your end goal, I know we shall come to reviewing that in a moment, is the same. You're on the same team. So actually, yes, there are some hard days and some hard times, weeks, months sometimes when you're in business, but at least you've got someone to talk to, bounce those problems off of, and actually find a solution together, because two heads are better than one. And that has got to be, I think, one of the great advantages of working with your other half. So how do you create your actual working environment? So it's really important to organise your physical space. Now, when we started the business, we were in a very, very small physical space. It was literally and I'm talking the very start, literally a corner of the living room. When we first started, that was the space for the desk, and the computer went there and the printer went there, and that was it. And so it was a case of sharing and juggling the desk and just doing what we needed to do. Soon after that, we were still working from home, so there was a dedicated area. We each had our physical areas of where we worked, to where we are today. Now, thank you to the universe, we have a great studio space, which used to be our working studio. I'm just having a quick look now. I mean, you could easily fit 8-10 desks in this space if you wanted to. We haven't, because we've chosen that actually Azir will work from the studio because he's got all his full setup all around me. When we need to record other videos, we've still got the space. If we have clients visiting, not at the moment, but when we do, if we are doing any video making or headshots, etc., that can still take place in the studio. But for various reasons, I've chosen, even though I have this beautiful large area, that I'm stood in right now, I've chosen to work from home. Now, part of that has been obviously because of COVID, but I was actually already working from home 2 years previously. It came about from wanting to support our two children, who were then both that same year, were both going through their senior exams for each of them at 18 and 16. I needed to be home to be a supportive mum and make sure the revision was happening and the meals were cooked and they were being nourished and catered for. And then once all of that was done, I would work late night to make up my work time for the time that I'd spent with the children. And that was really important to me because for me personally, we say, in our case, we're doing this for the children, this being the business. Well, if they're the ones that suffer for us being so busy in the business, then we're not actually being fair to them. So for me, that's just my place. I know I need to take that role in my life extremely seriously with responsibility, which I do, and the business will still fit in and my workload will fit around that. So we've managed to divide up our physical space. You know, at home is not ideal at the moment because the home space pressure is on, but it means that I can practically work and do what I need to do. Zare can get on with things over here. We are both on numerous calls all day long, sometimes international, different time zones. That can be difficult in an open plan office. So actually it makes sense that we both work in separate spaces, because then we can both get on with our calls and do what we need to do. So from a physical, practical sense, think about the area that you've made. And this year, Zare has, concentrated on in improving his physical space, a proper supportive chair. I know it sounds silly, but if you are working at your desk for very, very long hours, your physical health will eventually suffer. He's actually invested in one of these up-down desks, so that I'm actually standing at the desk right now. So he does, again, because of the extended hours he's working, he tries to break up his day by remembering to set onto standing mode and actually work standing for a lot of the day, which is a great thing to do, which not practical at home for me, but it would be a great thing to do, because it would help to maintain your physical health. And another thing to do is to remember to give each other mental and emotional space. It can be intense. If you think when you're working together, when you're working for someone as an employee, you go home, you might sound off about some of the things that happened in the office. You might talk about some of the work things. It will probably go over your other half's head. They're probably not listening fully, but whatever. It's just letting off some steam at the end of the day. But when you're working together in your own business, that gets a little bit trickier to manage, because the problems that you may have faced in the daytime, you don't really want them to come back and be around you in your space at home. And perhaps for me personally, that's more of a blurred line at the moment, because I work from home. It would be very easy to start treating the home and home life as an extension of your working life, and everything always being in the way. So I have a dedicated area which is my office area. It does not overflow into me carrying the laptop into the living room and charging it up and doing a few more things on my lap. I just don't do it. If I'm working at my desk. If I'm not at my desk, I'm doing house stuff, and that keeps that division really, really clear, not just physically but mentally and emotionally too, because especially these last few months we have a real blurring of those lines. Now, I've been the last couple of weeks talking to my team to just double check who's doing what over the Christmas break, New Year's break, etc. Which days are work days, which ones are time off. And I've got to say, I think pretty much everyone has come back and said, probably have Christmas Day off and maybe a bit of New Year's, but I'll just be working the rest of the time. Now, we were joking, Zare was like, yes, nobody needs any time off, you should all be working. But actually, in all seriousness, people do need time to recharge, re-energize, and come back focused and refreshed and ready to take on the tasks of your day. And so this is why it's important that you give each other that space when you're a working partnership, because without that, you will find that you start to suffer and you're not actually performing at your best. And taking care of the small things and making sure that the big achievements will come your way. So, for example, I think, again, I have spoken before now about some of the many exciting things. I guess we just take them for granted now because they were done and dusted. Working at Apple Store, Regent Street, flagship store in the UK, working with Nikon for as many years as we did. Now working with some of the leading lights in the digital marketing world and having some great achievements in that on that platform as well. It's fine, but actually they only happen because if you're looking after things on a daily basis, those achievements will start to come through almost by themselves, because they start to just be on your, almost like a list of affirmations that they're coming through and they're going to be a part of what you are achieving. Your goals start to become really, really clear. And I've just got a little list here that I put together of some of my top tips to help you succeed in your business together. So one of those things is regular communication. And just in your marriage, if you just stop talking to each other, it's soon going to cause some serious problems and probably end up, no matter how strong you think your marriage is, to actually falling apart. And business is no different. So much as we've introduced a number of meetings for our team that are dotted around the world, that communication is as important for Azera and myself, because actually that is a touch base of what our teams are up to. We can see quick visibility of what we're all doing. But of course, Azera and myself also have our regular meetings, because without that, we start to lose visibility of what we're actually trying to achieve. And following on from regular communication, and I mean daily communication, at least once, if not twice a day, in terms of formalized time. We don't just say we're going to do it, or I can't do it, let's skip it. Even this morning, I'll be very honest with you, we have a catch up at 9:15 now. We've changed the time slightly. And it was really hard going, because I actually have had a million things to get done today. But we still did that 15-minute catch up, because without that, it's very easy to start saying tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And then, of course, a whole week has gone by. Following on from that, 90-day plan, something again that I've touched on my previous lives. We regularly review what we're going to put onto our 90-day plan. So we have like a scratch list of ideas and thoughts, things that come to mind. They just go into a little dumping space. Beyond that, when we come to our next 90-day plan happens to be on Monday, we will be reviewing the previous 90-day plan, what went well, what would be better, what we're going to ditch, what we're going to improve on, what we're going to build on and include into the next 90-day plan. We would also then review whatever is the ideas of what's coming through for on that scratch list, so we can start to incorporate that and see whether that's something we want to put onto our plan or park it onto the next 90-day plan. And we will also be reviewing the numbers, because without analysing the numbers, seeing where the invoicing is, who is our client base, which accounts are, which size they are now, how they're growing, where are the opportunities within those accounts. There's quite a lot of work to be done. But if you do that regularly, then you'll actually see some results in your business as to where you're heading. Because as you do that 90-day plan, what should become clear is whether your business vision is actually the same. Because at the end of the day, Azera and I are no different. We may have two very different ideas of where we want to be. And if we don't check in regularly and also on a 90-day scenario, we could find ourselves drifting in two different directions. Now, I can give you an example of this too. 2007, 2009, something like that, we got involved with building software. It was supposed to be for the photographic industry. Fine, not a problem there. And it was growing. It became apparent that it would suit small businesses of any small business. So then we were going down the route of creating a more generic software program. But we were on the cusp of the world going a lot more SaaS-based and also app-based. And basically, it came to the point where I said to Azera, I'm not sure when we decided how we flipped into becoming software developers. This is going to be a huge resource drain, because there's never such thing as a complete piece of software. It's almost out of date as you go live with it. And I personally did not start this business to become a software developer. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to feel sucked into doing something just because people are saying, oh, you should do this. Well, if you think it's such a good idea, you go and do it. It's not something I want to do. And literally we persevered. We were doing all of this software, but when this change was happening within the software world, it became apparent that was not something we wanted to pursue any further. And so we pulled the plug on it. Now, if we didn't review it and still made ourselves do it, I don't know where we'd be today. But that's an example of why it's important to share your vision and know where you're going. And it's also then ties in with your values and your alignment. A conversation we had this morning, we were looking at our portfolio of work. There are 8-10 live jobs in this particular batch of work. Some are the very small end of their commitment to us, and some are very big, significant accounts that are, a big part of our business at the moment. They're two actual extremes in what we're doing. But the conversation that was had this morning, and we both said it at the same time, it doesn't matter how big or small that client is, they are all important. And that is something that is really important to both of us, because it's a bit like when you're doing lots of wedding photography. That wedding bride and groom, they don't know that you've got lots of other brides and grooms that you're also looking after. On their wedding day, they have your full attention, full respect, and you're working authentically and truly for that person. And that is the true of this particular batch of work. It doesn't matter if they're, inverted commas, small or large. They are all equally important. They all have to be nurtured, cared for, jobs completed, deadlines met, and surpassing expectations. And that's really, really important. And then finally, just to round off, is gratitude. Again, something I touch on regularly. It's really important to recognize what you have achieved, to thank, your clients, whether it's just in your heart, whether it's in something you do internally, but to have the gratitude that the universe has given you, talents and skills, creativity, knowledge, experience, all these things that have come together to make you the person that you are today. And just to remember that you are doing that together, and to respect each other and have that relationship where you can recognize that and move forward. So with that, I think I've probably come to the end. Yes, I have. So as I said on my sheet here, happy to take any comments and questions. I'll have a little scroll through in a second, but as long as they're business related, and I'm not offering any marriage guidance here. So let me just have a quick scan through. Got some hellos here. So hello people. Hello Mike. Hello Baramjeet. TG, Renata, Drupal, thank you so much. And Mike is acknowledging here, my wife is an invaluable part of my business, and it was really helpful to learn how you work with Azure. Yes, so I hope, Mike, your wife has got a very sharp stick so she can keep you in check. And make sure it's Friday. Make sure you go and buy her a really nice bunch of flowers today. That's my instruction to you, Mike, to say thank you. Yeah, and I've got a couple of other thank yous and hellos. So thank you all so much for your support. Really means a lot to me that you all join me on a Friday. And I hope you find the topics interesting and a little food for thought. It is deliberate that I choose to go on a Friday because I can give you a little bit of brain ache on a Friday afternoon, something to think about, and then you can mull it over all weekend and hopefully give you that insight to work on your business. The topics I cover is really to try and give you a bit of consolidation to think about yourself and how you fit in your business and work on your business, not necessarily the nitty-gritty of working in your business. So if you do have any topics that you'd like me to cover and any insights you'd like me to offer up, please just put them in the comments or let me know separately or privately. And I look forward to seeing you, not next Friday because that's Christmas Day. I think I will be back on the 31st. I will be checking the schedule. I can't remember off the top of my head, but certainly I will be back in the new year. For those that I will not be joining me again this year, have a great Christmas, a really wonderful Happy New Year to you all, and a prosperous one. And let's hope that we can, park our challenges of 2020 and move on with joy into 2021. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I shall see you all next time. Thank you.